Hello, friends! Welcome to Coding Garden with CJ. Welcome to Morning Tea with CJ, the show where I browse the web, talk about the latest JavaScript news, and sometimes implement something based on the latest JavaScript news. If you're watching live, please throw a message in the chat, say hello. Let's get started. So you might be familiar, but I do have a GitHub repo where I post all of the links that I go into. My organization is github.com/codinggarden, and you can click on Morning Tea to see all of the links for past episodes, and all the links that I come across today I will put on here as well. I am testing out a completely and totally new camera setup. I think you can actually see the details on my face now, which is weird for me. But if you can't hear me or if things look weird, please let me know. Yeah, because it's the first time I'm trying this out. All right, let's get right into it. r/JavaScript. I like to click links that have lots of upvotes. I'm going to kind of skip this one. It was only recently submitted. This one, should I learn jQuery after learning JavaScript? Interesting question. It's a self-post. 1 year ago, I started learning JavaScript. I'm now planning on picking up one framework to learn. My friend just advised me go to React or Angular JS directly. Do not waste my time in jQuery. Is it true that all jQuery can do, React also can do more perfectly? Hey guys in media, welcome to the chat. Interesting question. I see everyone seems to have gone off jQuery. Is it bad that I still use it for projects? So here's the thing. Building apps with jQuery or building apps with vanilla JavaScript is just a totally different way of building apps with a front-end framework. The organization of your code, the way you do things is just completely and totally different. Depending on what you want to do or what you want to use, it's just totally up to you. That said, I think if you're a total beginner, if you jump directly into a front-end framework like React or Angular or Vue without knowing vanilla DOM manipulation, you can really take for granted what the framework is actually doing for you. Because React, Angular, Vue, at the end of the day, they're just hiding the details of like what jQuery might do or what vanilla JavaScript might do. So my opinion is, as a beginner, learn vanilla.js, learn a little bit of jQuery, understand what it's doing, and then maybe jump into a front-end framework. I'm going to answer the question in the title specifically. Yes, you should. You don't need to be a jQuery grandmaster or anything, but it will only take a few hours to learn the basics, and a decent amount of regular exposure will leave you sufficiently comfortable with it. The other thing is, like, if you're working on a team or you're coming across old projects, you're going to most likely come across some jQuery code, and if you've never seen it, it can look really weird. If you've never used it, it can look really weird. So just knowing the basics, I think, is a good thing. I personally, and you've seen on some of my live streams, like, I don't use jQuery. I will use vanilla JavaScript, like just the things built into the browser. But I do know jQuery, and I used it for a long time. There's really no need to be using jQuery these days. And that's kind of like the other opinion to take, because so many of the things that jQuery does are now built into most browsers. And jQuery originally came out because it really helped with cross-browser support, and it made it really easy to add things to the page and add events and stuff like that. But there are a lot of things built into the browser now that you don't really need jQuery for. This is the right answer. A lot of other answers here talk about frameworks making it obsolete, but that's not the case. It's not needed because the problems it solved are no longer problems, even if you still want to work with the traditional DOM. Yeah, mainly because like most browsers have really good support for all of the things that jQuery was fixing. Basically, like if you try to do one thing in one browser with JavaScript, it wouldn't work the same way in another browser, but jQuery made it so you had a single API and it just worked across all browsers. jQuery is still widely used and very easy. You don't need a whole framework to do simple DOM manipulation. Okay. I think it's super interesting that I have not done like a single bit of jQuery on my channel. Like everything I've done is vanilla.js. It might be cool to just do like a quick intro and like maybe compare the two. Cool, that was fun. I'll throw that in the links. Also, you can hear I have a very clackety keyboard today. Let me see if I can show it to you. Oh, wait, I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, it has RGB LEDs on it. It's a mechanical keyboard. I haven't been using it because I thought it might be too loud on the live stream. I'm not doing much coding in this episode though, so let me know if it annoys you. I needed a framework that allows users to select DOM elements on mobile devices, and this one really worked well, and I thought I'd share it. Let's see it. Selection, a simple and lightweight library to realize visual DOM selections. No jQuery, support any CSS library. Let's see what it does. Click and drag to select the boxes. Ooh, that's cool. And I'm guessing this is supported on mobile. That's where they did it. What is it? To enable visual DOM. That's pretty cool. Yeah, like you have an app and you want users to like select something, and then those get highlighted, and then you can use like a drag and drop library to take those items and drop them somewhere else. It's pretty cool. Let's look at the comments. A ton of comments. Wait, no, that's the wrong one. Sorry. No, 6 comments. And they both have low votes. Some person is trying to claim the library as their own. Oh. I think the guy that made the library made a post to sound like he was using it, and people didn't like that. It looks interesting, though. Parallel programming in JavaScript. Let's check it out. And if you're familiar with JavaScript, or if you're coming from a language that does have parallel programming, JavaScript is single-threaded. I guess unless you're spawning processes with Node. But let's see what they're going to say. JavaScript is one of the most popular programming languages of all. It is the language of the browser. Another reason why JavaScript has become so popular is the adoption of Node.js on the server side. Yes. Okay, so this is kind of talking about the idea of asynchronous programming. So like the idea that when you make a network request, it doesn't freeze the web page. You make the network request, you use either like promises or callbacks to get the data when the request is finished, instead of everything on your page freezing until the network request comes back. So whenever you use something in JavaScript, for example, inserting text inside a DOM element, the whole web page freezes and becomes unresponsive. Yeah, like literally every line of JavaScript code you write is technically like the browser is doing that and not doing something else, but it's happening so fast that you don't notice it. Single-threaded language perform only one computation at a time. Yeah, so if you're coming from a language like C++ or even C# or even Python, they support having multiple threads and multiple processes, where essentially your computer is running like 4 different programs at the same time for one different program, and they all could like get out of sync and interfere with each other. But in JavaScript and in Node, it's one thread. There is no interference. This means when your browser is running a script, all other operations like DOM manipulation, animation, drawing, deferred executions will come to a halt. Cool. This is a great video if you have not seen it. Philip Roberts created this tool to actually visualize the JavaScript event loop. So the event loop is how this single-threaded thing works. The idea of there are browser APIs where things can actually run in the background, but they're kind of like transparent to you. And then when they're finished running, they get put into the queue. I think the queue, yeah, the queue, which eventually will then call your callback or call your promise. But I will link to this in the show notes, and you should definitely watch it. If you don't know, or if the event loop eludes you, this is a great video. It really demystifies things. No matter what you do, you can get away from the single thread. You can't get away from the single-threaded nature of JavaScript. Okay. Oh, I see where they're going with this. Web workers. Yeah, so that's the other thing. Like in the browser, there are these things called service workers, and they actually can run in the background. And so technically this would be like a parallel process. Like you could have a service worker running in the background doing complex calculations while your UI is still nice and responsive, and then you can communicate with that service worker. I would say it's a leap in my opinion to say that this is parallel programming, because it's totally separate, and there's like a very distinct way you have to communicate between the browser and the service worker. And the service worker doesn't have access to the UI, like it can't create elements or it can't access the UI in any way. Yeah, a web worker is a JavaScript programming running on a different thread in parallel with the main thread. The browser creates one thread per tab. The main thread can spawn an unlimited number of web workers until the user's system resources are fully consumed. Yeah, so I guess technically you could spawn up like 20 web workers, and that's like parallel programming because all of them are independent threads on the same process, and they could all be doing different things. Interesting. If you've heard of like the scripts people add to pages that do like cryptocurrency mining in the browser, a lot of times they're using web workers. Most importantly, web workers should be used in the following cases: data and web page caching. If you've heard of progressive web apps, this is like one of the biggest things. Like you can have a service worker that intercepts network calls, and if the page is offline, it can serve like a cached version, totally transparent to the user. Image manipulation and encoding. It's my break timer. Let's take a quick stretch. Take a sip of your tea. If you're watching live, let me know what you're drinking. Image manipulation and encoding. Right, so if you're like processing the pixels of an image or something like that, then you wouldn't want to do that on the main thread because you would like freeze up the web page. So you could do that in a service worker. After you're done processing it, you pass back the processed data and then show it on the web page. Canvas drawing and image filtering, network polling and WebSockets, background and I/O operations, video and audio buffering, local database operations, computationally intensive data operations. Basically, anything that doesn't have to deal with updating the UI, you should do it in a service worker, and then you can use it in the main thread. This is great. I'm going to stop talking about this, but I will link to it and also link to this event loop. What is the event loop anyway video? Because they are both very useful resources. Self-post. I had a software developer interview recently and used JavaScript for the whiteboard part. The interviewer asked me to use vanilla JavaScript and not ES6 plugins. Is this normal? That's a weird way to say that. I'm assuming it was because it wasn't a web development specific interview that maybe the interview didn't know JavaScript. And I said it was a weird way to say that because like ES6 is not plugins. It's just the latest version of the ECMAScript standard that introduces new features to the language. So maybe they meant that they couldn't use the latest features. He also didn't understand why I was using let const instead of var, but I explained it was updated syntax that just about every browser supports now, but he seemed to be annoyed when I tried explaining. Interesting. Let's see what people are saying. Out of curiosity, what ES6 higher order functions are you thinking of? Because higher order functions are a simple product of first class functions, which ES5 has as well. Yeah. So map, filter, reduce, all of those were introduced in ES5. They've been around for a while. Array.find and array.includes, those are new. Those are in the latest spec. Yeah, so reduce, map, for each filter, those are all in ES5. Yeah, and this is a good point too. So he said he was interviewing at a big company. In my experience and in this person's experience, fairly big companies aren't quick to pick up modern technology. So like, I've been to conferences talking about JavaScript where maybe this was like a year and a half ago, where people saw the presenter using like a fat arrow function and had no idea what it was, and that's just the nature of things. Like they're using older tech, they don't really have to update. And if they don't care about it, they won't. Yeah, and then larger companies that are actually are tech companies, they are typically using the latest stuff if they can. Sounds pretty red flaggy. I was thinking whiteboarding code is not a very good indicator of a programmer's ability. It's like asking a metalsmith to make a sword without an iron and hammer. Yeah, I don't like whiteboarding interviews because when on the job are you going to be writing code on a whiteboard to solve a problem? You might be talking about things conceptually, and that's cool. If they want to ask you, like, how would you design this system given this many users and we need to support this many different areas in the world with this much data? That's cool for a whiteboard because you can kind of like talk architecture, but just like writing code on a whiteboard, it's pointless. Cool. Interesting thought. Let's look at this last one and then we'll move on to r/webdev. Self-post, why do GET requests put the data and payload in the URL, but POST requests put it in the body of the request? The answer is the HTTP specification says a GET request does not have a body, so the only way to send data with a GET request is in the URL. GET requests are used for getting existing resources. They shouldn't contain any payload or be creating or modifying anything. Yeah, and that's basically saying like you can't have a body in a GET request. A GET request just has a URL. Yeah, and Kaizen Media is mentioning, like in the previous thing that I was reading about, like larger companies not really learning the latest tech or anything. Their mindset is like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And that's pretty much it. It's like they have a product, they're making money. Like why spend the time learning new tech or like converting their code base if they really don't have to? Post requests are for creating a new resource, thus will contain the payload in the body. Because GET URLs can be clicked on as links. Well, you can put data. Nobody is mentioning that a GET request literally does not have a body. Oh, this person's mean. Because that's the difference between GET and POST. Bloody hell, these questions are getting more stupid as time goes by. That's not very nice. There are a lot of new people coming into web development, and if you take this attitude, nobody will come into web development. That's dumb. It's dumb. Let's downvote him. GET requests are for links. There's only a link. A POST is for form submission. It has a body, and the data is in that. I'm gonna look up real quick. HTTP get body, like in the specification, or I guess even reading on here. Because it was my understanding that a GET request cannot have a body at all, which is why if you want to transfer data with a GET request, you put it in the URL, because that's the only part of it. I guess you could put it in the URL or the headers. Is this statement correct? HTTP GET method always has no message body. HTTP, I didn't find any part. Okay, so maybe it's not in the specification. Let's see the first answer. Neither REST client nor REST console support this, but curl does. Interesting. So the specification says a message body must not be included in a request if the specification of the request method does not allow sending an entity body in requests. Redirects us to section 9. Section 5.2 says the exact resource identified by an internet request is determined by examining both the request URI and the host header field. The GET method means retrieve whatever information in the form of an entity is identified by a request URI. So simply put, like a GET does not have a body, which together suggests that when processing a GET request, a server is not required to examine anything other than the request URI and host header field. Okay, so in the specification, it basically says if you're implementing an HTTP client, something interpreting GET requests, it is not required to look at the body. It's only going to look at the URI, or sorry, HTTP server. In summary, the HTTP spec doesn't prevent you from sending a message body with a GET, but there is sufficient ambiguity that it wouldn't surprise me if it was not supported by all servers. Cool. That got somewhat technical, but should I post an answer? I think I'll link to the Stack Overflow. Why not? GET request should not contain a body. Which is why if you want to send, my keyboard is really loud. If you want to send data with a GET request, you have to use the URL. See this answer on Stack Overflow. I'll say typically GET requests are used for retrieving information, not sending information, and should not contain a body, which is why if you want to send data with a GET request, you have to use the URL. See the answer on Stack Overflow. A POST request can send data in the body or the URL, but typically data is sent in the body of the request. That's my answer. Save. Cool. Okay, that's it for r/JavaScript. Some more messages in the chat. Yeah, so theme was mentioning that mindset seemed legit. Why not? And yeah, definitely why not? Like especially at a larger organization. And if this goes back to the article I was reading about like a company that's not using the latest features of JavaScript or maybe not using the latest framework or something like that. And that's totally fine. I think it's just like certain developers, I mean a lot of developers, I don't know. The world of web and technology is moving so fast. I personally really like to be on the latest trends, and it's moving because things are getting better. Like, I mean, that itself is subjective, but I don't know, syntax is getting cleaner, it's getting easier to do things, so like why not do it the latest and greatest way? But at the same time, if you're a large organization that like is already making money, like why would you spend money to train your developers to do it in the latest way when it's already working the way it is? That's a totally valid mindset. I personally like to use the latest stuff, and I want to work at a company that uses the latest stuff. But you can still make money either way. Yeah, so Kaizen is saying, proof that GET request doesn't have a body, open Postman and watch body disappear when you set GET. And I think that was the kind of what they were mentioning on that Stack Overflow post. Like, it would be surprising if any server actually looked at the body of a GET request. And so like Postman just like doesn't even implement that. Cool. All right, let's move on to r/webdev. How long have I been streaming? 25 minutes? Okay, healthy amount of time. I want to try to implement something. I think I see a candidate. Material UI. Oh wait, is this a React thing? I think it is because I used it a long time ago with React and Redux. Yet another library? What's wrong with Bootstrap? And why not version 2? Oh, you know what? Maybe it wasn't Material UI, it was something else. Okay. In a nutshell, Material UI is an open source project that features React. Okay, it is the same project that I'm thinking of. Features React components that implement Google's Material Design. Material UI is essentially like Vuetify.js, but for React, if you're familiar with Vue.js. It kickstarted in 2014. What's the hype with the version 1 pre-release? It's badass. Not only does it address the problems inherent with less, but it also unlocks a ton of terrific features. I think one of the main things was when I used it, it was okay for just like basic components, but anything that got too complex had bugs in it or just didn't work that well. Let's check out their website. Material UI. Oh yeah, version 1 is coming. But if you're familiar with any like material design component library, it works in a very similar way. You get access to all these different types of components, like let's look at raised buttons. They have buttons that look like that, and if you look at the code for it, you actually bring in that component from their library, and then you can use it inside of your render function. Cool. But it is version 1. That's nice. That's great. Maybe I'll make a simple app. I say that, but like generate a React app, add Material UI, try to use it. Maybe I'll do that at the end of the stream. Stay tuned to find out. Maybe I'll do something else too. Website auditing tools. So this is just a self-post. Someone's asking a question. I've been doing solo full stack web development thing for about 6 years now, and I've recently decided to start offering a simple website audit service to my existing clients as a way to give them ideas on keeping their sites up to date, help them avoid potential legal issues, and to hopefully bring in a little bit of extra money to my business. I want the audits to cover accessibility, search engine optimization, overall performance, best practices, and security. They've been using these tools. None of them address security very well. Let's take a quick stretch. Whew. Cool. Let's see what people say. Vega. It's open source and easy to use. So I think the question they're asking, we're looking for like security auditing tools. Let's check out Vega. Vega vulnerability scanner. It's pretty cool. Tools like this will essentially scan a website and just do like automatic detection of cross-site scripting and SQL injection, basically like totally automatically. Like they'll look for form inputs and try to put in SQL code to see if it responds with like a SQL response, or they'll try to mess with the URL to get scripts to inject into the page, and if it finds it, it generates a report. It's also really great if you're trying to just hack a site. You can run this tool on it and find vulnerabilities without really having to do much work yourself. That's cool. I run my HTTPS sites through every one of these SSL audits every few months to make sure I'm as secure as I can be. Cool. Wow. Lots of cool resources here. So just lots of different links. You can basically post a link to your website and it will audit it. It'll say if it's secure or, or if it finds vulnerabilities or anything like that. Cool. I've used Nessus. So I did like a cybersecurity class when I was in college. And this is another vulnerability scanner. The industry's most widely deployed assessment solution for identifying the vulnerabilities, configuration issues, and malware that attackers use to penetrate your or your customer's network. Cool. I'll definitely link to that. It's pretty interesting stuff. Let's find something that's not a self-post. Well, never mind. We'll look at this self-post. Are HTML5 semantic tags used to replace divs? Sometimes. I would say if a semantic tag is a block level element and it makes more sense to use that semantic name than a div, then yes. Are tags like header, article used in place of div tags to give screen readers better readability for the visually impaired? Is it considered bad practice if I still use divs to separate elements into chunks? I don't think screen readers... Maybe they do. But you can also like add specific attributes for accessibility, even if it's a div, and it will know that that's like the header with links on it, or this is an article with content that you can read. Yes, semantic tags are basically just divs, but with an inherent purpose that machines, screen readers, bots can grasp, which divs don't have. You should use semantic tags whenever it makes sense to use them, but you don't need to be afraid of using divs if there's no appropriate tag for what you're doing. Exactly. Cool. Yeah, pretty much everyone's kind of saying the same thing. If it makes sense to use a semantic tag, use a semantic tag instead of div. It gives it more meaning. Okay. Let's move on to r/programming. We'll click like 2 links, and then maybe I'll build a React app with Material UI. That won't take me very long. It'll probably take like it shouldn't. I don't know. I'm just gonna follow a simple thing and yeah. Okay. This is interesting. I read this article this morning. Blockchain is not only a crappy technology, but a bad vision for the future. This person takes a very interesting stance in terms of like, is blockchain useful? Are people just hyping it because they want it to be useful? It's a pretty long read, and if you do like blockchain, this will probably make you mad or make you hate the author of the article. It's kind of just interesting to think about. They kind of argue that like, yeah, let's read like this one of this first. Yeah, this December I wrote a widely circulated article on the inapplicability of blockchain to any actual problem. People objected mostly not to the technology argument, but rather hoped that decentralization could produce integrity. Let's start with this. Venmo is a free service to transfer dollars, and Bitcoin transfers are not free. Yet after I wrote an article last December saying Bitcoin had no use, someone responded that Venmo and PayPal are raking in consumers' money and people should switch to Bitcoin. It's something to think about. Like, if you have worked with blockchain at all, or like tried to like buy Bitcoins or trade Bitcoins, there's a transaction fee because of the way Bitcoin and the blockchain works. Your transactions have to be verified, and you have to basically pay to have your transactions verified. And sure, like if you live in the U.S., I'm not sure if this is as popular other places in the world, but Venmo is like a really easy to use app for your phone. You hook up your bank account to it, and then you can just transfer money to friends. It's like really great if you're like trying to split a bill, or I don't know, just all kinds of things. However, they're like a centralized service, and I don't know, like they don't charge any fees, so how are they actually making money? Like, are they selling my data? I don't know. And one of the main things about a decentralized currency is that there is no single source of truth. Like there isn't a bank or there isn't somebody that you have to go through. And in this case, like Venmo, PayPal, they are a source of truth. Like your money has to go through them before it goes through someone else. And Bitcoin is just person to person. Yeah, and this person's basically saying like, just because you want it to be awesome doesn't mean it's awesome. I don't know. It's a like I said, if you really like blockchain, this is probably gonna make you mad. But it's also a somewhat like refreshing look on things and just like puts things in perspective. I like blockchain. I have invested in altcoins and stuff like that. But it really is a question of, is it going to take off and become like a major currency? I don't know. Check that out. Let's just look at the comments real quick, see what people are saying. Oh, this was an interesting comment. Every time I hear about the latest real-world problem that blockchain can solve, I think back to the difference between the Bruce Schneier, the Bruce Schneier who wrote Applied Cryptography, the Bible for Years on Crypto, and the Bruce Schneier who wrote the preface for Secrets and Lies. So Bruce Schneier basically wrote like the book on like cryptography, and people like used it as a Bible for like what's the word? Encrypt everything. Use cryptography for everything. Like it's a technology that makes it so that even a person that like doesn't have like lots of computing resources can still encrypt their stuff and keep it hidden from others. But in this other book, he basically took the stance that was just like way too on the far end of things. Like there are some cases where yeah, the error of applied cryptography is that I didn't talk at all about the context. I talked about cryptography as if it were the answer. I was pretty naive. The result wasn't pretty. Readers believed that cryptography was a kind of magic security dust that they could sprinkle over their software and make it secure. That they could invoke magic spells like 128-bit key and the public key infrastructure. A colleague once told me that the world was full of bad security systems designed by people who had read applied cryptography. So, like, just because it's encrypted doesn't mean it's secure. I think that's what he was going with. And, like, just because it's decentralized doesn't mean it's going to work and it's awesome. There are, like, a ton of companies, startup companies, basing their technology on blockchain and cryptocurrency, and basically, like, solving problems with a decentralized system, which is interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Read this comment and then maybe we'll try to code something up. This is very well thought out, but the argument has some problems. As a society, and as technologists and entrepreneurs in particular, we're going to have to get good at cooperating and building trust, and at being trustworthy. Instead of directing resources to the elimination of trust, we should direct our resources to the creation of trust, whether we use a long series of sequentially hashed files as our storage medium or not. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, we already trust banks. We already trust the centralized system. Like, that's how the world goes around. Like, you could not spend money if banks didn't exist, or like if even the idea of like a printed dollar didn't exist. So we put trust in that. But I think the idea is that because it is a central source, like, it's open to corruption. I don't know. The thing is, the third parties we're supposed to trust are really bad at being trustworthy. Yeah, I guess that's what I'm saying. Like, so a big bank has all of this power. Like, who's to stop, like, the CEO from using that power in a not good way? Banks and financial companies are a perfect example. Setting aside their corporate ethics for a second, which are abysmal, those folks lie through their teeth all the time about the integrity of their systems. And in the year of our Lord 2018, some of these issues have managed to hit the news. Everyone knows about Equifax, and it's reasonable to assume that similar security problems are everywhere in the financial industry. Now the cryptocurrency startups are even worse. It's true, but the idea that we need transparent proofs of our trust in the integrity of financial systems is super duper real. The points that OP made about blockchain technology not meeting those needs are entirely valid, but we need to trust each other is simply not helpful without another solution that provides these transparent proofs. Boom! Like, the idea of decentralized and blockchain, like, it's amazing, but the actual implementation and using the existing technology, I don't know. I agree that decentralization trust systems, which require a high degree of technical skill to validate or even just use, are worse than trusting a third party. And that, I think that's along the lines of, like, it's somewhat hard to get into and to really understand, like, blockchain. That's why it hasn't taken off hugely yet. Yeah, I don't know. That was fun to talk about. I'm not extremely knowledgeable on the subject, but I do like it. Okay, I think I'm done clicking links. I'm going to try to make an app with Material UI. And I have not done React on my live stream yet, so this will be fun. Wait, I'll leave that article open. I think they kind of like walk you through setting up a website with it. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to try to follow their article and make myself a React app. Yeah, so create React app will create a directory when you run it. And so create React app, if you're familiar with like Vue.js, create React app is the view init or view create of React. And actually, I'm gonna make sure I have the latest version because I haven't created a React app in months. Yeah, and Kaizen Media in the chat was saying, I think in reference to cryptocurrency, very high barrier of entry. You have to know what it is, you have to know where to get it, you have to know where to buy it, you have to know where to trade it, you have to know where you can spend it. Yeah. Okay, so I have the latest version of Create React App. I am now going to create a Material UI demo. Go. Okay. So I can go into that directory, and let's do yarn start. That should give us an auto-refreshing hot reloading dev server. with a React app. There it is. Cool. Wait, where are we? To the browser, to this tutorial. Okay, so now if we want to add the material UI library, we can use yarn to add it. So let's do that. And at next, I'm guessing, is like the pre-release of version 1. Yeah, note the at next tag at the end. It instructs the package manager to pull in the latest v1. For example, it might look like v1 beta 43. Don't miss that last part, or else you'll end up with the stable 0.2 dependency. Wait, is that really it? Almost. One last thing is fonts. Yeah, so in our HTML, we'll need to add a link to the Roboto font, which is like the Android Material UI font. So I just, right now I'm streaming from my Windows computer, and I have like a capture card that I'm sending my Mac through. Usually I'm just using my Mac to stream, but I'm using this app, Restart all clients. I'm using this app that lets me share my mouse between my Windows and Mac computer, and it looks like it has just expired. Cancel. I guess I'd have to quit it and restart it. That's so funny. I might buy it because it's really useful. The main thing is, like, I have my stream set up over there, and I want to be able to move my mouse over to like change the scenes and interact with chat and stuff like that. And then my computer's over here. Cool. Let me restart it. Mouse share. All right, that's running. Nope. Just a second. All right, we're back in business. Okay, so I generated a React app. I installed Material UI. When you generate a React app, this is what you get. So let's go into the public folder. That's where our index.html is. Very similar to like a Vue app. And I'm talking about Vue because I assume like a lot of my subscribers do use Vue.js. But it's very similar because you have a root element with an ID, and that's where your whole React app is going to live. That's how Vue works. And we'll throw in the Roboto font there. Cool. What next? Could also pull it in with npm. All right. Well, let's refactor App Jas Component before we go any further. Well, they're building like an example app. I don't want to do that. I just want to pull in some basic things. Okay, let's do this. Let's go to the Material UI docs. Let's create like app bar, footer, and then maybe like some cards in the middle. So like let's use this app bar right here. Let's see how to do it. Import app bar from Material UI app bar. And then in our source directory are all of our components. We can look at app.js. This is our main component, and we're looking at JSX here, which is essentially HTML inside of our JavaScript. It's pretty weird, man. Okay, let's get rid of everything. We're going to bring in, let's even get rid of the default styles. We're going to bring in the app bar, and then we should be able to use the app bar like at the top of the component. And just like in Vue.js, your components can only have one root level element, so I still need that div there. All right, let's see what happens. Something broke. The prop children is marked as required in app bar, but its value is undefined. Really? Oh, how do I look at the, oh, there we go. We got to change the version. But there is no version 1. This is going wonderfully. Okay. The docs are for an older version. Let's see what they do here. Bringing in paper. Are they going to bring in an app bar? materialUInext.com. Okay, I have to go to a different website. So I was on materialui.com. I need to be on the latest website for the latest documentation. Now let's see how to make an app bar. App bar. Let's do like this one. That's a lot of stuff. I don't want to do that one. That's also a lot of stuff. Super basic. That's a lot of stuff. So if we look at it compared to the older one was just like app bar. Now you got to add in your toolbar and different things like that. Let's just do it. We'll do this app bar with buttons. Okay. I'm just gonna bring everything in. So we're bringing in. Do we need prop types, or are we using prop types? I'm not gonna bring in prop types. We're bringing in styles, app bar, toolbar, typography, all of the different things we're going to need. We have some basic styles that will be applied. And then in our component, interesting. So you use with styles to stylize the component when you export it. So here's what we're going to do. At the bottom, instead of exporting app, we're going to export with styles app. And then now our app should get access to props. Yeah, Kaizen's saying that is a bunch of code for an app bar. It is. I mean, I think the reason is you can pick and choose what you want and like highly customize the app bar, because before it used to just be like one component tag and that would give you an app bar, and now like we're adding typography and we're adding buttons. I don't know. And so this should be this dot. Well, we can. Oh man. We can destructure it. So classes comes from props. So we should be able to say classes equals this dot props. I think. Are you kidding me? Cannot resolve material UI / icons. Do I have to do something different to bring in the icons? Icons. The icon component will display an icon, for instance, via Google Web Fonts. Maybe I need this then? I think where I went wrong is I'm not trying to follow the tutorial. I just want a basic app. Okay, do I have to install a separate package to get access to icons? Let's try searching Google for that. Oh. Not part of the Material UI package? Okay, so you have to install at Material UI / icons. Okay. This is going to be interesting. So I did Material UI at next. This is tricky. Okay, let's see what happens if I attempt to add this. My only concern is that it might be for an older version of Material UI. Okay. Hey! It worked. I finally got an app bar. Very cool. Okay, let's try to add like a footer or something. Can we search for a footer? Maybe not a footer. Let's add some cards. The classic material design component. Let's see some cards demos. Simple card, a media card. I want a media card. Okay, more stuff. Okay, so that was bringing in, we already have button and we already have typography, so we just need to import these other things for the card. We want access to these styles, so I'm going to put these styles in the existing style object. Cool. And then we want to show some cards, so we'll take this and we'll throw it below the app bar. Does it work? That's a card. Cool. Let's grab an image. I believe there's Phil Murray. Get random images of Bill Murray. It's broken. There's Place Kitten. You can get random images of kittens. Is that broken too? Jeez. There's Place Bear. You can get random images of bears. Okay, that's a good one. Well, I should just be able to do 200 by 300, but I want like a square. So let's do like 600 by 600 bear, please. There we go. That's nice. And now in the image location on the card, we'll throw this URL. Cool. That's nice. It looks decent. Got some cool little buttons. Let's see. I kind of want to give the card some like breathing room. Classes.card max width, and then let's also give it some margin of 2 ems. Hey, that's pretty cool. Cool. What if we create a bunch of cards like this? Oh, actually we could, yeah. So let's do create. I should put this on state. Okay, so our component is going to have a constructor. Hey Bob, welcome to the stream. I am building an app with Material UI, and I guess I'm almost done. I just wanted to demonstrate like using it. But what I want to have multiple cards. So let's do a constructor that calls super and then sets state. And state is going to be an object that has a bears property, which is an array. I just want 8 bears, so we're going to map over this array and then create a card for each number in there. It'll just be like a random image. Okay, so right here we're going to do this dot state dot bears dot map, get access to the bear, and then we're going to return that. Cool. What do we get? Okay, so they're all in a row like that. Let's see, do they have like a grid system? Layout grid. How it works. It's using Flexbox. That's cool. Let's see how the code required for this. Wow, okay, so there's a grid container element. This is too much. Auto layout, let's see. Makes the items equitably share the available space. I like that. Okay, let's try to do this. So we can bring in grid. And we can then do something like this. So we've got a grid. Well, maybe this will work. Let's see. So around where we do this map, we're going to have the grid. And instead of doing that, we're going to do this. Actually, yeah, so this map that we do. Oh no. There. That should actually return a grid element. So this needs to be inside of the map. And then all of our card stuff goes inside the grid. So we got our outer grid, and then inside the grid, we're going to put the inner grid, we're going to put the card. My guess is this is going to show all of them in a single line. Oh, interesting. That's interesting. Spacing is 24. What does the spacing property do? Oh, let's do like spacing 8. See what we get. I'm really curious why 3 cards are at the bottom. Let's take a quick stretch. I think I'm done with Material UI. That was fun. We are using like a still in beta version 1, but I was able to get it working. I think I might have, yeah, so the only error I have right now is there's no key on the grid here. Say key is the bear. Oh god. That's not how you do that, because that's Vue.js. Don't write the colon. Cool. All right, I will give this a 3 out of 5 on the CJ scale, whatever that means. It's easy enough. Cool. If you're using React, this seems decent. I would honestly say though that like because it's in beta, like things are gonna still keep changing, so you might wait till the stable release before you use it. Seems interesting though. Cool. That is it for the live stream. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Bordering on VR, like virtual reality? Oh, okay. I see there's more chat messages in the chat. Currently watching on a 60-inch TV. I can see all the P's in 1080p. Nice. And welcome, Cedric182, to the chat. However, I am done for today. So, as I mentioned, I do have a GitHub repo, codinggarden/morning-t. I will push up all of the links and the things that I talked about today, and this beautiful sample code that I wrote for Material UI. You can take a look at that too. If you want to watch me live, check out coding.garden. You can see my live streaming schedule. The times listed on my screen are America Denver time, but when you visit the webpage, you'll see them in your local time. Also, if you take a look at my YouTube channel, you can see my upcoming live streams. And I actually did file a bug with YouTube. Like, the time that it says right there is 1 hour behind when it actually is. But if you click on the video, you will see the actual time that it's going to go live in your time zone. But yeah, I filed a bug. Basically, this is showing the wrong time on this page. But these are all of my upcoming live streams, so if you want to set a reminder for yourself, you can see that. Tomorrow is going to be a full stream at 8:20 p.m. Mountain Time. I'm thinking I might build a calculator with Vue.js. It's been something I've been thinking about. Also, if you check out poll.coding.garden, there have been some suggestions for videos I should do. I might actually pull from there. I might save the build a calculator for just like a standalone tutorial series or something like that. It's happening. Cool. Yeah. There was a request for React with Redux. Um, I don't know. I'll post the topic tonight, and you can take a look on the page to see what the upcoming topics are going to be. I think that's it. If you have not followed me on Twitter, you can follow me there. Every time I go live, it posts a tweet automatically, so you can tune in. I think that's it. Thanks everyone for tuning in, participating in the chat. I will see you tomorrow at 8:20 p.m. Mountain Time. Have a wonderful morning, evening, night, afternoon, wherever you are in the world. I'll see you later.